another activity you can create using Schoology assessments is the opportunity for the students to self-reflect and look at their own writing critically using a rubric that you provided. Now, Schoology does have rubrics built in that you can create and attach to assignments and discussions, but if you want to give the opportunity for students to actually look at a rubric and kind of gauge where they think their writing is, you can do so by using a particular question type in Schoology assessments. So I'm going to go into one of my courses here, and you can see here the students had submitted a research paper. So I'm going to add another activity for them to do where they're going to do a self-reflection based on rubric that I had already given them and that we have gone over, and see where they think their writing is, where it could improve, where they think they excelled. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create another assessment. I'm going to call this self-reflection, writing, rubric, and then I'm going to assign just a meager point value, even if I don't count this. You can pick your due date. Going to enable submissions, and then I'm also going to select a category. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on assignments, and then I'm going to click create. Okay, so now here I am in the setup of this assessment, and again, since we're not counting this as an assessment, I'm not really going to change much of anything, except I'm going to go to change this option over here, because I do want my students to be able to see any comments that I might leave for them on their assessment, or rather this particular activity, and then I'm going to hit save. Alright, so now we're going over to the question type, the nitty-gritty of the activity, and the question type that I'm going to use for this is going to be more visual. I'm going to create something called a chart activity. Now this is one that's probably a little bit underutilized, but it can have its place with different activities. So in the question setup, what I'm going to do is actually include an image of the rubric that I had given the students. So you could do this in one of two ways. You could save your rubric as an image or take a snapshot of it, which is what I did, or you could attach it. You could go to a link and get a share link of your document and put it in here, meaning go to OneDrive and get a share option for it. I'm going to just insert an image of it because I already have an image already supplied. So I'm going to go down and look for my rubric, and I'm going to insert it. So I do have the opportunity to make this a little bit bigger by adjusting the pixels, but I'm just going to click OK, and this looks like a decent size. So this is the rubric. This will serve as a reminder for them as to what they need to be looking at their work for. So in the title area, I'm going to put in self-reflection. Now, if you're not all that familiar with, graphs and y-axis and x-axis, this will give you a little overview of how to do that as well. And as you make changes to all of the fields here, you're going to see changes automatically show up here, so you can get a preview of what it's going to look like. So the max y-axis value is going to be 3, because you can see here the max value for each criteria is 3. So I'm going to change that to 3. The x-axis title, these are going to be the criteria, and the y-axis is going to be the rubric points. So you can see here that has changed. Now don't worry about this being in halves. We're going to adjust that in a second. So now the labels. The labels on the x-axis are going to be the criteria that is part of our rubric. So I've entered the 3 elements that are going to be part of the graph that they're going to be adjusting. So here are the 3 elements, and they're going to be able to interactively drag this and adjust as to how many points they think they should have based on the rubric that they were provided with here. Now, in order to get rid of the halves here, what I'm going to do is going to come down here, and I'm going to go to additional setup options, and I'm going to change the chart layout here to snap to points. So I'm going to change this over to 1. So what this does is, as the students are dragging, it will only allow them to drag them to point 1, 2, and 3, and nothing in between. It will snap automatically. So that's why we set it to 1. So only by 1s will it allow the graphs to be adjusted to. Down here, I'm not going to give the users any other controls. These are interactive by default, and what that means is the students have the ability to drag and drop on here. And then I'm going to put multicolor bars because, you know, why not? And that's pretty much it for this. So now I'm going to hit save before I hit preview. So now I can come back over here and I'm going to take a look at what this looks like from a student perspective. So they will have now the rubric right there in front of them, and now they can use that rubric and they can adjust and they can decide where they think they fall in each one of these criterias, and then they can save it and submit it to you. Now this is also a good activity because this is pretty much a very generic rubric. This is something that also you might want to save to your resources like we did in the previous week's work. And you could use this for other writing assignments that you have in class, so you don't have to recreate that from scratch all over again. So this is just another example, a creative way to use one of the lesser known question types that are in Schoology assessments.